Bryophytes. Bryophytes includes the various mosses and liverworts that are found commonly growing in moist shaded areas in the hills. So in bryophyte include liverwort and mosses, and they found means habitat is they found in most moist shaded areas in the hills. So see these liverworts and mosses. Figure number 3.2, bryophytes. Liverwort is shown. So they have given the example of 𝗪𝐵𝐶𝐴. Figure number A, female thallus, and B is male thallus. See here in female thallus there is rhizoids, 𝐾𝐵 and 𝐴𝐻𝐿4. 𝐴𝐻𝐿4 is a female and 𝐵𝐻𝐿4 is a male, and it is also have 𝐾𝐵 and rhizoid. This is the example of liverwort called as 𝗪𝐵𝐶𝐴. 𝗪𝐵𝐶𝐴 is the example of liverwort. Then next is B, male thallus, and A was female thallus. Then mosses. In mosses there is a Funaria, gametophyte and sporophyte, and sphagnum gametophyte. So see the figure number C. In this Funaria, gametophyte and sporophyte is shown. So see in gametophyte there is a rhizoid, main axis and leaves. So this structure is called as gametophyte, and above that capsule seta is shown as sporophyte. So this is the example of Funaria, and they have gametophyte and sporophyte. Then see the diagram number D. In that archegonial branch is shown and branches, and antheridial branch is shown. Archegonial means what? Female branch, and antheridial means what? Male branch. Okay, so these are the examples of bryophytes. In that liverwort and mosses. In liverwort the example was 𝗪𝐵𝐶𝐴, and in mosses the example was Funaria. Then bryophytes are also called as amphibians of plant kingdom because this plant can live in soil but dependent on water for sexual reproduction. Bryophytes are called as amphibians of plant kingdom. Why these are called as amphibians of plant kingdom? Because this plant can live in soil but dependent on water for sexual reproduction. They usually occur in, their habitat is damp, humid and shaded localities. They occur in damp, humid and shaded localities. They play important role in plant succession on bare rocks or soil. They play important role on plant succession and bare rocks or soil. Then the plant body of bryophyte is more differentiated than that of algae. Earlier we have seen about three types of algae: chlorophyce, phaeophyce and rhodophyce. Then after algae we are studying about bryophytes, and this bryophyte is more differentiated than algae. Then it is a thallus like prostate or erect and attached to the substratum by unicellular or multicellular rhizoids. This is the most important sentence from bryophytes, that the body of bryophyte is thallus-like and it is attached to the substratum by unicellular or multicellular rhizoid. It is thallus-like, prostrate and erect and attached to the substratum by unicellular or multicellular rhizoid. Then they lack true root, stem and leaves. The body of bryophyte lack true root, stem and leaves. They may possess root-like, leaf-like, stem-like appendages. Means they do not have root, stem and leaves, but they possess a similar root-like, leaf-like, stem-like structures. The leaves structure. The main plant body of bryophyte is haploid. This is the most important point from here, that the plant body of bryophyte is haploid. Keep in mind, plant body of bryophyte is haploid, it produces gametes, hence it is called gametophyte. The bryophyte which produce a gamete, it is called as gametophyte. The sex organs in bryophytes are multicellular. So you must know that the sex organ in bryophytes are multicellular. The bryophytes produces gamete, so it is called as gametophyte. Then the male sex organ is called as antheridium. The male sex organ is called as antheridium. They produce biflagellate antherozoids. What they have said that the male sex organ is called as antheridium, and they produce biflagellate antherozoids. Then next is the female sex organ is archegonium, is flask shaped and produce single egg. Male sex organ was antheridium and female sex organ is archegonium, and it is a flask shape and produces single egg. Female sex organ produces single egg and it is a flask shape. Then the antherozoids are released into the water. Antherozoid was male sex organs, and these are released into the water where they come in contact with archegonium. Understood? The antherozoid was male sex gamete, and this male sex gamete is released into the water and they come in contact with archegonium, and the antherozoid fuses with egg to produce a zygote. Means what? When female archegonium when female archegonium comes in contact with antherozoid released from male, and the zygote is produced. Means what? The antherozoids are released into the water where they come in contact with archegonium, and the antherozoid fuses with the egg. The egg releases from archegonium and they produce zygote. Zygote do not undergo reduction division. So keep in mind that male sex organ was antheridium, female sex organ was archegonium. So whenever the antherozoids means what? Antherozoids is a antherozoid is a male gamete, and archegonium is a female gamete. When male gamete released into the water, they come in contact with the female gamete, that is archegonium, and this male and female gamete forms a zygote. The antherozoid, which is a male gamete, fuses with egg. Egg, it is a female gamete, to produce zygote. Then this zygote do not undergo reduction division immediately. Means there is no reduction division immediately. They produce multicellular body called a sporophyte. After that, they produce multicellular body called sporophyte. The sporophyte is not free living but attached to the photosynthetic gametophyte and derives nourishment from it. Understood? Means what? After the fusion of male and female gamete into the water, they form a zygote, and this zygote do not undergo reduction division immediately. After that, it forms a multicellular body called as sporophyte. The sporophyte is not free living but it has sporophyte attached to the gametophyte, which is attached to the photosynthetic gametophyte and derives nourishment from it. So gametophyte is photosynthetic, and above this gametophyte the sporophyte is attached, and sporophyte is not free living. Sporophyte is dependent on gametophyte. So please see the diagram, figure 3.2. In that, in mosses, see the figure number C. So see, there is gametophyte and above the gametophyte, that is sporophyte. Means what? The sporophyte is dependent on photosynthetic gametophyte and derives nourishment from gametophyte. Then next, some cells of sporophyte undergo reduction division, meiosis, to produce haploid spores. These spores germinate to produce gametophyte. So see, after that, this sporophyte undergo reduction division, means what? Meiosis, and haploid, and produce haploid spores. These spores germinate to produce gametophyte. See, again gametophyte is produced. In sporophyte, there is a reduction division. After reduction division, we know they produce haploid spores. From these haploid spores, they produce gametophyte. Then, bryophytes in general are of little economic importance, but the mosses provide food for herbaceous mammals, birds, and other animals. Species of sphagnum, a moss, provide a peat that they have been used as fuel, as a packing material for transshipment of living material because of their capacity to hold water. So this is the most important point. The species of sphagnum, a moss, they provide a peat and have been used as a fuel. They may ask question, or as a packing material for transshipment of living material because of their capacity to hold water. Means what? Whenever we transfer a living material or a organ from one place to the another, so this species of sphagnum or moss is very useful for this purpose, for transshipment of living material, because they have the holding capacity, they hold water. Because of this property, they used to they use in transshipment of living material. Mosses along with lichens are the first organism to colonize rocks and hence of great economical importance. This is also most important example, that mosses along with lichen, these are the first organism to colonize rock. They decompose rock, making the substrate suitable for growth of higher plants. Means that decompose rocks and they provide a space for growth of higher plants. Since mosses form dense mat on the soil, they reduce impact of falling rain and prevent soil erosion. Means what? Mosses from dense mat or on the soil, they reduce impact of falling rain and prevent soil erosion. Means they prevent falling rain, and because of that soil erosion is also reduced. The bryophytes are divided into liverworts and mosses. Yes. So let's revise what we have learned in bryophytes, that bryophytes include liverworts and mosses. Then next is they are the amphibians of plant kingdom. Because of this, plant can live in soil but dependent on water for sexual reproduction. Then next is they play important role in plant succession on bare rocks or soil. Then next is the plant body of bryophyte is more differentiated than that of algae. It is thallus-like, prostrate or erect, and attached to the substratum by unicellular or multicellular rhizoid. Then they may possess root-like, stem-like, leaf-like appendages. Then next is um, bryophyte is haploid. It produces gametes. It is called gametophyte. The sex organ in bryophytes are multicellular. The sex organs are multicellular. In bryophyte, sex organs are multicellular. Male sex organ is antheridium. Female sex organ is anthrazoids. When antheridium releases male gamete and archegonium releases egg, they come in contact in water and zygote is formed, and this zygote do not undergo reduction division immediately. Then they produce a multicellular body called sporophyte. Sporophyte is not free living, dependent on that gametophyte and derives nourishment. And some cells of the sporophyte undergo reduction division meiosis and they produce haploid spores. These spores germinate to produce gametophyte. Bryophyte in general are of little economical importance. The next is the species of 𝗪𝗪𝐶𝑒𝑚 moss provides a peat that have been used for their capacity used for fuel as a packing material for the transshipment of living material because of their capacity to hold water. Mosses, along with lichen, are the first organism to colonize rock, hence are of great importance. They also decompose rocks, making substrate suitable for the growth of higher plants. Then next is, since mosses form dense mats on the soil, they reduce impact of falling rain and prevent the soil erosion. Mosses also prevent soil erosion. The bryophytes is divided into two parts, liverworts and mosses. Liverworts. Liverworts grow usually in moist, shady habitats such as bank of stream, marshy ground, damp soil, bark of trees, deep in woods, etc. Means what? They live in moist, shady, bank of streams, marshy ground, damp soil, bark of trees, and deep in woods. Okay, the plant body of liverwort is thalloid. Example, Markensia. We have seen earlier that Markensia is an example of liverworts, and the liverwort is thalloid. The plant body of liverwort is thalloid. An example is Markensia. The thallus is dorsiventral and closely appressed to the substrate. The thallus was dorsiventral. The leafy members have tiny leaf-like appendages in two rows on the stem-like structure. Asexual reproduction in liverworts takes place by fragmentation of thalli. Asexual reproduction in liverworts by fragmentation of thalli or by formation of specialized structure called 𝐏𝐵𝐾𝐄𝐽. Means what? Asexual reproduction by fragmentation of thalli. Then the formation of specialized structure called 𝐏𝐵𝐾𝐄. 𝐏𝐵𝐾𝐄 are green, multicellular, asexual buds which develop in small receptacles called 𝐏𝐵𝐾𝐄𝐽 located on the thalli. So 𝐏𝐵𝐾𝐄 are green, multicellular, asexual buds which develop in small receptacles called 𝐏𝐵𝐾𝐄 located on the thalli. The 𝐏𝐵 become detached from plant body and germinate to form new individual. Means what? This 𝐏𝐵𝐾𝐄 when detached from the parent body, then they germinate into the new individuals. During sexual reproduction, male and female sex organs are produced either on same or different thalli. The sporophyte is differentiated into foot, seta and capsule. Most important question. The sporophyte is differentiated into foot, seta and capsule. After meiosis, the spores are produced within the capsule. These spores germinate to form free living gametophytes. So gametophyte is formed from spores that germinate to form free living gametophyte. Then next is mosses. The predominant stage of the life cycle of mosses is gametophyte, which consists of two stages. The predominant stage of this mosses was gametophyte, and that this consists of gametophyte and it has two stages. The first stage is protonema stage and second stage is leafy stage. In protonema stage, developed directly from spores. The protonema stage is developed directly from spores. It is creeping, green, branched and frequently filamentous stage. The first stage was protonema stage, which developed directly from spore. It is a creeping, green, branched and frequently filamentous stage. The next is second stage, that is leafy stage, which develops from secondary protonema as a lateral bud. So the first stage was protonema and it was developed from spores, and it was like creeping, green, branched and frequently filamentous stage. The next was leafy stage, which developed from secondary protonema as a lateral bud. It consists of upright, slender, bearing spirally arranged leaves. They are attached to the soil through multicellular and branch rhizoids. They are attached to the soil through multicellular or branch rhizoid. This stage bears sex organs. We have seen earlier in diagram figure number 3.2 about rhizoids. So in this stage there is multicellular and branched rhizoids, and this stage bears sex organs. Then, vegetative reproduction in mosses is by fragmentation and budding in secondary protonema. In secondary protonema, vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation and budding. In sexual reproduction, the sex organs antheridia and archegonia are produced at the apex of leafy shoot. Antheridia is male sex organ, archegonium is female sex organs. In sexual reproduction, the sex organs are produced at the apex of leafy shoot. After fertilization, the zygote develops into sporophyte consisting of foot, seta and capsule. The sporophyte in the mosses is more elaborate than that of liverworts. So we have studied earlier that the bryophytes are more elaborated than algae. Now we have seen here the sporophyte in mosses is more elaborate than liverworts. The capsule contains spores. Spores are formed after meiosis. The mosses have an elaborate mechanism of spores dispersal. This is the most important line, that mosses have elaborate mechanism of spore dispersal. The common examples of mosses are Funaria, Polytrichum, Sphagnum. Funaria, Polytrichum and Sphagnum. So let's revise liverworts and mosses. Liverworts grow in shady habits such as bank of stream, marshy ground, damp soil, bark of trees, deep in woods. Then the plant body of liverwort is thalloid. Example, Markensia. The thallus is dorsoventral and closely appressed to the substrate. The next, asexual reproduction by fragmentation and formation of specialized structure called gammae. Gammae are green multicellular asexual buds which develop into small receptacle called gammae cup on the thalli. The gammae become detached from the plant body and germinate into new individual. During sexual reproduction, male and female sex organs are produced either on same or different thalli. The next is the sporophyte is differentiated into food, seta and capsule. After meiosis, spores are produced within the capsule. The spores germinate to form free-living gametophyte. Next is mosses. The predominant stage of life cycle of mosses is gametophyte, which consists of two stages. First stage is protonema stage, which directly develop from spore. It is a creeping green branch frequently filamentous stage. The next is leafy stage, which is developed from secondary protonema as a lateral bud. It consists of upright slender axis bearing spirally arranged leaves. They are attached to the soil through multicellular or branch rhizoid. This stage bears sex organs. Then the vegetative reproduction by fragmentation and budding in secondary protonema. Sexual reproduction, the sex organ and antheridia, archegonium. Antheridia male sex organ and archegonium is female sex organ and produced at the apex of leafy shoot. After fertilization, zygote develops into sporophyte consisting of foot, seta and capsule. The sporophyte in the mosses is more elaborate than that of liverwort. The capsule contains spores. Spores are formed after meiosis. The mosses have elaborate mechanism of spore dispersal. Most important point, the mosses of elaborate mechanism of spore dispersal. Common examples of mosses are Venerea, Polytrichum, Sphagnum. Then pteridophytes. Pteridophytes include horsetails and ferns. Pteridophytes are used for medicinal purposes and in as a soil blenders. In pteridophytes, there is horsetails and ferns, and it is used for medicinal purposes as a soil binders. They are also frequently grown as ornamentals. Pteridophytes also grown as ornamental. Evolutionary, they are first terrestrial plant to possess vascular tissue, xylem and phloem. Question asked, earlier question was asked on this. Previous year question is, the, which is the first terrestrial plant to possess vascular tissue? The answer is pteridophytes, and the vascular tissue was xylem and phloem. You shall study about the tissues in chapter 6. The pteridophytes are found in cool, damp, shady places, though some of may flourish well in sandy soil conditions. Then bryophytes, the dominant phase in the life cycle of gametophytic plant body. So we have seen that bryophytes were dominant in gametophytic plant body. However, in pteridophytes, the main plant body is sporophyte, which is differentiated into true root, true stem and true leaves. So in bryophyte, the dominant phase was gametophytic plant body, and in pteridophyte, the dominant phase is of main plant body is sporophyte, which is differentiated into true root, true stem and true leaves. These organs possess well differentiated vascular tissues. Yes, we have seen vascular tissues are well developed in pteridophytes. The leaves in pteridophyta are small. Leaves were small. Small is called as microphyllous, as in 𝐶𝐿aginella. The leaves are small in pteridophyte, for example, 𝐶𝐿aginella, or large microphyllous, as in ferns. So they may ask a question like, small leaves in pteridophytes is the example of 𝐶𝐿aginella, and large leaves is the example of fern. Fern is the example of large leaves in pteridophytes. The sporophytes bear sporangia that are subtended by leaf-like appendages called sporophylls. Leaf-like appendages in sporophytes called sporophylls. In some cases, sporophyll may be distinct compact structure called strobili or cone. In some cases, the sporophyte form a distinct compact structure called strobili or cone. Example, 𝐶𝐿aginella and equisetum. Example of sporophylous structure, strobili and cones is 𝐶𝐿aginella and equisetum. The sporangia produce spores by meiosis in spore mother cells. What they have said, the sporangia is a spore producing organ, produce spore by meiosis in spore mother cell. These spores germinate to give rise to inconspicuous small but multicellular. The spores germinate to give rise to inconspicuous small but multicellular free-living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophytes called prothallus. Free-living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophyte called prothallus. These gametophytes require cool, damp, shady places to grow. So see here, these gametophytes require cool, damp, shady places to grow. Because of this specific restricted requirement and need for water fertilization, the spread of living pteridophyte is limited and restricted to narrow geographical region. The gametophyte bear male and female sex organ called antheridia and archegonium respectively. Water is required for the transport of antherozoid. The male gamete released from antheridia to the mouth of archegonium. Fusion of male and female gamete with egg present in archegonium result in formation of zygote. So the fusion of male and female gamete, the male gamete released into the of mouth of antheridia, mouth of archegonium, the fusion of male and female gamete will form a zygote. Zygote thereafter produces multicellular, well differentiated sporophyte, which is dominant phase of pteridophyte. Dominant phase of pteridophyte was sporophyte, and dominant phase of bryophyte was gametophyte. The next is sporophyte, which is a dominant phase of pteridophyte. In majority of the pteridophyte, all the spores are similar kind. Such are called as homospores. Similar kind of spores, homosporous, as an example, and they have example of 𝐶𝐭𝐵 and 𝐶𝐵. They are the homosporous, which produce two kinds of spore, macro, large, micro, small, are known as heterosporous. General like 𝐶𝐭𝐵 and 𝐶𝐵, they produce two kinds of spore, one small macrophilous and large microphilous are known as heterosporous. Large one called macrophilous, small one called microphilous. These are heterosporous. Example was 𝐶𝐭𝐵 and 𝐶𝐵. The megaspore and microspore germinate and give rise to female and male gamete respectively. This is megaspore and microspore germinate and give rise to female and male gametophyte. The female gametophyte in these plants are retained on the plant sporophyte for variable period. See, the female gametophyte in this plant are retained on parent sporophyte for variable period. The development of zygote into the young embryos takes place within this female gamete. The event is a precursor of sea habitat, considered important step in evolution. The pteridophytes are further divided into four case classes: Coelodopsia, Coelotum, Lycopsida, 𝐶𝐭𝐵𝐻 and Lycopodium, and Spinopsida, Equisidium, and Pteridopsida, Dryopteris, Pteris, and Adiantum. So the examples are Coelotum Lycopsida was 𝐶𝐭𝐵𝐻, Coelopsida Coelotum, Lycopsida Lycopodium, Spinopsida Equisitum, and Pteridopsida Dryoptera, Pteris, and Adiantum.